Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Yoakum. This is the Atomic Team meeting, and we have a very special guest for you today, Jimmy Rex, recently published author of Be the One, and also leader of the organization We Are the They. Jimmy, we're going to ask you to talk about both of those things, among others. Jimmy is an individual that has just, done so many really interesting, adventuresome things. Sold over 4,000 properties in his career, been a very prolific and successful investor. Jimmy, it'd be interesting for you to talk about that as well. And but I just read his book, Be the One, and I would have loved to have this book in about 2008, Jimmy, especially when you got to the part about if you're not feeling really good about yourself, list out 50 things that make you a badass. That was a really cool exercise. I actually did do that. It was interesting when I did it, though, and then I reflected on it. Of course, a lot of those things occurred as a younger man, and I realized that a lot of what I put down were personal achievements. And now that I recently celebrated my 60th birthday, I'm realizing that I'd like to flip that scale and have the things that I'm proud of doing to be for others, as I know you have done, like with the Operation Underground. Love for you to mention about that as well. So take it away. Why don't you share with us what you think would be most valuable? You've got a group of some fantastic realtors amidst here. And so you know that crowd well. But let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, Don. It's interesting. You kind of just everything that anybody ever mentions about me, it all started with real estate. So that's one of the reasons why anytime somebody asks me to speak to a real estate group, I'm happy to do it, because real estate really was the thing that changed my life for me and gave me the opportunity to do everything else I've been able to do. And so I spoke to a real estate group yesterday. I spoke to one last Friday. It was actually really sad. The guy registered over 400 people. He rented out the Marriott downtown in Salt Lake, but he put the wrong hotel on the flyer. So there was only 6 people there. It was he had a full breakfast buffet in the back and everything. I just got up and gave everything I had to the group, but it was by the end of the talk, there was about 11 that showed up. So Tobin, good to see you, buddy. Always good to see your face there, my friend. But yeah, the book is called Be One, and it comes from the Marcus Aurelius quote, which is waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. And ultimately, it's just a lot of the lessons I've learned over the last 20 years. I've been on this journey of self-development. I discovered Mike Ferry in 2005. Forever changed my life, led me into coaching and building my real estate business. At that time, I'd only sold 3 homes in 6 months in the business. And by the end of that year, I'd sold 60 homes just because of what I learned from Mike. And so my life was forever changed by diving all into coaching. And so having, back then, the offices you were a part of, it was very rare you had stuff like this. You just didn't. And so you were a lot more on your own, figuring out how to self-development and any kind of way to help better your life. So in the book, I just kind of cover my own journey, a lot of things I discovered with my coaching program, which is called We Are the They. And ultimately, it's just there's certain things we hear truths in life, and we can tell when we hear it that it's a truth because it resonates. And I think it's been more difficult than ever how to navigate, where to look, what to do. And realtors are experiencing it a lot right now. The real estate game has changed a little bit, and just people trying to figure out all right, what is going to happen with this? How's things going to change? And so I think there's a lot of people in real estate that are really right now trying to figure out how they're going to keep their business or grow their business in this marketplace. And so Don, again, I think maybe if you guys have specific things you want me to cover on, I think that might be the best way to do this. But for me, I'm honored to anytime I get a chance to talk to realtors, because it's such a fun career, and it's one that changed my life so much. And I still have a real estate team that runs today. I just, I more run the kind of the face of it and the networking and stuff like that. My team does all the logistics, but yeah, I love real estate in every single way. So any questions I can answer, I guess we can lead into or whatever.
Yeah, well, one of the things that you speak about in the book, in addition to the Mike Ferry influence, which, by the way, I was a little bit ahead of you in terms of my Mike Ferry experience. It was the early 90s, like 91, 92, 93. I was charging the front stage, and I got to 60 transactions as well. So maybe Mike Ferry's the answer for 60 deals a year.
I
But
do think that if you will, here's the thing. I mean, it was very basic. He said, look, real estate's not that hard. You learn what to say, you learn how to say it well, and then you do it all day. And that does work. And you cap out at about 60 deals a year, before you kind of start to just run out of steam and energy. But yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. And I always say that to realtors, like, we overcomplicate things. I switched over to, doing a lot more parties and social media and networking and things like that, but ultimately built my career doing that. So
yeah, I did the same. I found his approach. It's a great way to cold start. Very few people are able to keep that going over time. And like you, I switched over to more of a networking approach. You also mentioned the power of the mastermind.
mm-hmm.
My sense is that has had a tremendous influence on you as well. Why don't you talk about some of the different masterminds that you've been in and how they influenced you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was with Mike, he did this amazing mastermind. It was called well, I don't remember. You had to sell 75 or more homes a year to be a part of it. And they come from all over the country. And so at that time, there wasn't even teams. So like everybody there was pretty much just crushing, kicking ass at doing real estate. It was called the top producers leadership mastermind. That's what it was, the top producers mastermind. But anyway, that was the first one that really changed my mind. I mean, I'd be sitting at a table and, a guy next to me just sold 800 homes in Dallas. To my right is Chris Heller, who went on to be the CEO of Keller Williams. Like, it was just an incredible room to be in and be a part of. But in those masterminds, and that's the reason why, that's what I do now is I run a men's coaching program. I run these different masterminds because, and I've been, some of them are different than others. There's a lot of noise out there today, but ultimately we stop growing and stop really trying to learn once we graduate high school or college. And most of the growth, I mean, we should continually be trying to learn and grow and do things like even this, being on these calls and stuff like this. But every time you join one of those, you're exponentially growing your network and your influence. I mean, I became obsessed with just growing my influence. It was funny, the group I spoke to yesterday, I asked the agents, I said, how many of you have at least 500 people in your SOI that you regularly market to? And not a single one in the room said yes. There was 40 agents in the room. I was shocked to see that. I was obsessed with growing my SOI. I had 2,800 people that I actively marketed to, 800 that I called once per quarter. And so, I mean, I just was, maniacal about getting people into my system, getting them to be part of my, just creating value for them where they would want to use me for real estate. And, my best year ever, I ended up selling 497 homes. With 2 other agents on my team. We had a bunch of assistants, but ultimately those leads all came just because we were obsessed with adding people to our database and then serving the database. And so I think as real estate agents, especially right now, people more than ever, they want you guys to be the experts, right? They want to know that you're the best choice they have and that you're going to be worth the money. There is other options that there didn't used to be per se to get your home sold. And so you have to stand out that much more. It's one of the reasons why I really love social media. For me, it's been just monumental in helping me grow my influence and to meet more people. I mean, I can put a post up. So I launched my 5th leadership group today, and all I'm using is Instagram to sell that out. So I've sold it out. This is the 5th group. I sold out the other 4 groups in a day and a half, 2 days. It's a $900,000 worth of sales day. That I'll earn by closing that group out. It's $18,000 a year. So you start doing the math on that. And that only comes from my Instagram. And so the power of social media is humongous. It's with real estate, it's the same thing. 3.5 years ago, I sold 31 properties in one day from social media. It was, there was a new ski out condo development that had crazy prices. And I just put it on my Instagram and I had 350 leads and sold 31 of them in one day. And so there's so much power in social media and it's really a way for us to just share with people what you're doing, let them see that you're the expert, teach them. Yeah. And, people are dying to have somebody do that for them.
Yeah. Well, what I want people to hear is in the beginning, before you had a big SOI and before you had a big Instagram following, you actually got on the phone and ground, Mike Ferry approach, right?
For years, yeah.
Then you built an SOI, sphere of influence. By the way, I try to get people to call 300 people once a quarter personally. You were calling 800. So you guys, when you're belly aching to me about the 300, just get over it, okay?
I used to joke around. I'm like, what the hell else are you doing all day? Like, I don't even understand. Like, just pretending to work. Like, if you literally call people from 8 to 11, everything else takes care of itself. Like, you'll have plenty of people to follow up with. You'll have plenty of appointments to go on. And all of a sudden, you're selling a couple hundred homes a year. Like, I literally can't understand. Like, if you're not selling at least 50 to 100 homes a year, I once had 127 homes under contract, and I still made my calls every morning. Like, it's just a systems issue if you're not doing it. And most of the time, I really believe that realtors will just find ways to be creatively avoidant. They'll find busy things. They'll go on a podcast, or they'll write a blog, or they'll go knock door, anything they can do to avoid just picking up the phone and doing the thing that actually makes them the most money and calling the people they know. So I just like that. To me, was a non-negotiable. I had people come shout at me, and they all say the same thing. They're like, this guy just gets on the phone and doesn't get off. Like, he just doesn't get off the phone all day long. I'm talking to people.
Well, and there's something that you mentioned in the book that I think is important for them to hear as well. It's not just about getting on the phone to get, but it's getting on the phone to hold space for the people that you're talking to come from a place of contribution. And like you, one of the things that you encourage us to do is to just call 5 friends a day. You're probably only going to reach one of them because, hopefully your friends are so busy, they're not going to always be able to pick up the call.
Right.
But in that call, just call because you're genuinely interested in what's going on in their life. And you want to, in case, even the best of us, by the way, are getting kicked in the teeth once in a while. And if you can be there in that moment for them to just listen and provide some compassion or empathy, wow, that like the time that you left the houseboat to go be with a friend that needed a friend, right? Yeah. It could mean the difference between life and death in some cases.
What I talk about in the book with that is, like, most of the time people only hear from you when you need something or if it's a special occasion. And so when you just call people and just chat with them, like, as a realtor, 2/3 of the calls I make, I don't even mention real estate. Like, one of the reasons I throw so many client events is because it gives me the perfect excuse to call somebody and literally just be like, create value. Like, hey man, I'm throwing this Easter egg hunt, or I'm throwing this firework event. Would love to have you there. By the way, while I've got you on the phone, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell a house? And it's just a very comfortable way to do it. But you don't always have to ask for real estate. You don't always have to ask for business. Just ask how they're doing. I'll call my friends and just tell them a funny story, or I'll like talk about something that I saw on their Instagram, and I'm like, dude, that was hilarious, blah, 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 whatever. And just by connecting in that way, it becomes a much more deeper friendship.
Yeah. By the way, before I left for the office, I told my wife I was going to be interviewing you. And she goes, I see that guy on Instagram. Isn't he kind of adventuresome, kind of aggressive? And I go, well, he does do some pretty crazy stuff. Run with the bulls and spade, or swimming with tiger sharks. But
I have a theory, if I can get the guys to, we all just get stuck in these mundane lives where we forget to go out and really live. And if you can, get out and run with the bulls, or I took 25 guys to Africa last week, and we did bungee jumping and rope swings and just crazy stuff. But if you can get them to do that, then all of a sudden calling your friends to ask them about real estate isn't such a big deal, and all these places where we get stuck in life and our energy gets a little bit stuck. And so the more I can help people feel alive, I just know that benefits them in every way.
Yeah. And you guys, you might look at Jimmy on Instagram or some other people that you admire and think, well, man, they just seem so courageous. Okay. Well, courage is really, it's not the absence of fear, but it's being willing to move forward in the presence of it.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
actually terrified to bungee jump last week. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm like, I don't even like this. But it was like, I kind of felt it though. And I was like, oh, I still get afraid to. I think the second you're not afraid, you got a problem on your hands, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think something else that you guys should hear is that if you're wondering what to say when you're calling your sphere of influence, just be, right? In other words, just call because you're genuinely interested in them. That does not require a script, right? Everybody is going to appreciate that call, right? When people see that caller ID and they see it's you, you want to have that feeling of, wow, I'm going to pick up this call because I know that when Randy calls, he's coming from a place of contribution. So there's probably something valuable for me on the other end of this line, or a fun story at least,
Yeah.
right? So Jimmy, the masterminds, you know, one of the things that we encourage folks to do is to, you know, find a peer support accountability partner, or get into a mastermind. We oftentimes will tell them to get somebody that, you know, like if you're a brand new agent, don't try to mastermind with somebody that's doing 100 deals a year, but maybe one click ahead of you. But I have the impression with your We Are the They that you've got a tribe of people that are pretty like kind in that. I presume that feels a little bit like a brotherhood. And, you know, of course, women can do that as well in their own type of tribe. But talk to us a little bit about why you chose that demographic and
Yeah,
how,
for
what
me,
it means to them.
yeah, so a couple of things there. So one of my networking strategies that I always used is if you look at networking as like there's 10 levels of people, right? And you're trying to get to the top is the more influence you can have, the more impact you can have, all those kinds of things, the easier it is to just, you know, help other people. And so if like, you know, whatever, Elon Musk is a level 1 and, you know, the college kid's a level 10 that's just starting out, like you got to first have some self-awareness of where you're at. But I think the most important thing is to realize like, okay, I could get in a room tomorrow with, you know, whatever, like Elon Musk. It's not going to do anything. Like I don't have any value to create for him. So what you really want to do is look to try to up level with people that are doing slightly more than you are. Like who's in your own industry that's just doing a little more than you can, you know, up level with. Who in your community is where you want to be in 2 to 3 years. And so what I do is I become obsessed with finding people that are just doing, they're where I want to be and they've been where I'm at. So I hired Ed Milet as my one-on-one coach last year, for example, and Neil Strauss, a couple of guys that I really look up to. And what it does is it just collapses time. It expedites your own growth. And so you can kind of step into that much quicker. Now, you don't have to, you know, pay a lot of money and hire a coach like that per se, but like wherever you're at today, I kept working up, trying to just meet more and more successful people, more people that inspired me and things like that. And ultimately, you get to a point where you look back and you're like, dang, like I can have a lot of influence now. You know, I spoke on a stage on Saturday in front of 6,000 people. The other speakers were David Goggins, Ed Milet, Donald Trump Jr. There's just an amazing group of people that we got to speak with. And I was invited on that stage because of what I'd done over the last 7, 8 years of connecting with, you know, first it was, you know, Cody Sperber, and then it was Pace Morby. And then from there, it's this Dan Fleischman, and then it's Ed Milet. Like it just, but you're always trying to network. And that's where these masterminds, you want to find people that are still in the same like world that you're in, but maybe, you know, they're just doing a little bit more than you are. And so within that, you get the opportunity to grow and to learn from them. And they will share with you what they've done to like learn these little things. And if you have one takeaway from every time you go do that, it doesn't take very long before all of a sudden your entire business and life looks quite a bit different.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, even though they are one click ahead of you, ideally, you probably have an area of your life where they can learn from you, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you know that saying that it's lonely at the top, even when you look at these people and you're going, oh man, that's incredible what that person is doing, you know, they probably also have fears and weaknesses as well. Maybe that you could help solve or connect them to a resource that would be valuable to them.
Well,
I
yeah,
think,
and one of the best things I ever learned with networking is you have to become obsessed with creating, like, how can I help that person's life? And so for some people, it's a lot harder than others, right? Like when you meet certain people, it's just really hard to create value for them. But then other people, it's quite simple. And so I'm just always, asking that question. So for example, I have my podcast, and I was able to get a podcast last year with Johnny Manziel. He was a former Heisman Trophy winner, and kind of has a crazy NFL story. And it was funny because the guy that connected me to Johnny Manziel, I donated some money to his charity years ago, and he ended up having this opportunity for me. Well, that guy wanted to meet Ed Milet, and Ed actually hit me up and he was like, "Hey, how the hell did you get Johnny Manziel on your podcast? I've been trying to get him." I was like, "Oh, let me connect you." And I connected him with that guy. And so I'm just connecting pieces for people. But that's more of a high level, like, how do you create value for a guy that's already got everything, right? Well, if every person in this group, all of your friends have businesses, they have social media pages they're trying to grow. So if you can just share them and help them and, send people to them, stuff like that, it's just little things here and little things there. And over time, you end up helping a lot of people, and then doors start opening up for you everywhere.
yeah, absolutely. Hey, Tanner's asking, Jimmy, are you fulfilled? Let's say, Tanner, why don't you go ahead and state that? Are you fulfilled in your life's work? Does it feel purposeful?
Well, that was why I got into We Are the They. So when I was, doing real estate, I sold the most expensive home ever in Utah about almost 5 years ago now. It was a $32.5 million property. And honestly, it wasn't that fulfilling. Like my business was already doing really good. And so it didn't really change that much financially. And I kind of realized I've hit a little bit of a peak with what I was doing with real estate. And that's where I started asking myself, where could I have more impact? And yeah, doing We Are the They, and it's funny because this is the hardest work because it's all emotional. I'm coaching hundreds of guys, and you just deal with big issues every day, right? But you get big rewards for that. And so every single day I have different guys that have, sending me text messages and thanking me and talking about how it's changed their life. And so it's the most fulfilling job I've ever had by far. I feel like I'm in my dream job now. I still get to have a foot in the door in real estate, which I also, honestly, real estate's a dream job. Like it allows you to have such a good life, the freedom, the flexibility. You're connecting with people all day. You're helping them with something. And so I was talking to a realtor last night at this charity event I was at, and she said she doesn't like working with her friends because, she's like, it's just weird. And I said, no, you just don't think you're the best option for them. I loved working with my friends because I knew I was their best chance of getting a good deal or of saving money, on how much they sold their house for. And so like when you get to that level, I think that is what is the fulfilling part, is knowing that you really are making a difference. Like you really do change. If you're a realtor and you don't feel like your clients get an absolute, superior experience by working with you, it's not going to be very fulfilling because the money's just going to kind of be there or not. But when you're like, holy crap, I just crushed that deal, or like I found them that house deal, I put that deal together, no one else could have got them that house, that becomes really fulfilling. And so I think, and you can, by the way, like you can just use real estate as a tool to get fulfillment in other places. Like for some people, they make so much money in real estate, they get to spend every minute watching their kids grow and coaching them and teaching them and those kinds of things. And that's what's fulfilling. And so I think each person individually has to figure out what fulfills them. But for me, I do think that, real estate was fulfilling, but what I get to do now is been even more fulfilling.
Yeah, yeah, touches the heart for sure. Well, and of course, even though that's the guys group, you women can do the very same thing, right? And of course, it doesn't have to be a guys or a girls thing.
Yeah.
So Jimmy, I know one year you were investing with a team of folks across the country. I think you even generated 256 referrals, if I remember correctly, in a single year. In my mind, that kind of ties into your networking capabilities. It seemed to me that what it looked like from the outside was that you had identified the absolute best places to invest in the country, and then you built teams or aligned yourself with teams in those local communities. Can you just talk about the thinking that went behind that and how you executed that strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we just, I learned the hard way in 2008, 9, 10, how not to invest in real estate, and made some bad decisions. And so I really, doubled down, went all in on, becoming an expert on real estate investing specifically. And we realized there's a formula to make sure that you don't lose money when you're investing in real estate. And so me and my partner, Tyler, just started that was like gospel. We were only going to teach, real estate investing that way and help people. And so in Utah, we had all these deals originally that we could do for years, but then unfortunately, those deals kind of dried up with the prices going up and then the market itself, the rates and everything else. And so for us, we had to start looking for other places where we could find properties that would make sense. And so we started searching all over the country. We searched 93 markets, and we picked the ones that still had what we were looking for a great investment property. And so, so instead of just selling them in Utah, which would have been nice because we'd have gotten a lot more commission, we set up teams in a couple other cities. We picked 3 markets, and then we sent hundreds of investors. Every year we're sending hundreds of investors to these other markets. And, we take a referral fee. And then on top of that, we charge a fee to work with us. And so, we charge a $5,000 flat fee plus a percentage of the referral. And so it ends up being about half what we'd get if they were in Utah, but they get a much better deal. And so we get fans for life. Instead of just, you saw this the last few years, people just putting people in whatever property. And a lot of them were not good investments for those people.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, even though it might be 50%, half of 256 deals is still a mite bit more than the average agent. But
yeah, exactly.
I took us down that path because I wanted folks to understand that sometimes we operate with limiting beliefs. Geez, my market has appreciated so much. We can't do investment property anymore. That was a big part of my business. So my business is down. And Jimmy said, well, actually, where could we invest safely with our clients? Right. And he looked at 93 markets and chose the top 5 or 6 and then built teams in those markets. Right. Because when we believe in what we're doing and when the value that we're delivering is real and tangible, then you don't have to sell, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because as a matter of fact, people are going to be attracted to you. One investor is going to be, they have their own little masterminds, by the way. Yeah, man, I got to hook you up with my buddy Jimmy. He's getting me into these properties where, I'm getting a 7 or 8 cap rate in actually really nice neighborhoods. Yeah, cool. Well, I want to wrap up here. You guys, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. What I have observed in Jimmy's career is, he, like the rest of us, he didn't have past clients in the beginning. So he did what it took to get his business underway. Calling is probably the grindiest grind of it all, but he did it. But he worked himself out of that into sphere of influence and then to a pretty high level, sophisticated networking approach. And not all of us, would be hanging with pro basketball players or things like that. You can aspire to whatever you want. But I think the key lesson to take from this is that he did what he had to do at that time, but he kept looking for ways to upgrade the way he was doing things and to get into the bigger, better rooms and to have more influence. And now he's turned that into contribution, right? So whether that be the Project Underground or We Are the They, what it feels like now is you've achieved enough success that you're trying to now influence others to be able to follow, maybe not your path, but at least their best path.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was really pivotal for me was just starting to take time to just ask myself better questions like, all right, what do I really want to do? Like, what makes me happy? Where do I want to spend my time? Where could I have the biggest influence? Who are the people that reach out to me for help? What do they need? And I start asking myself a lot of these different questions. And in that, I think you start finding better answers too, even in your own business. Like, what am I best at? What do I really enjoy doing? What do I not enjoy doing? Where are my clients coming from? Like, just asking questions all the time. And you really start give yourself some better information. Like, why do people reach out to me? Why are things not working out when they're not? And just all those different things. And I think as you get really clear on all that, you start to get a better picture of where you're supposed to put your time and attention. And then you really are able to see where you're supposed to take attention off of as well. I think that's a pivotal part.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Jimmy, will you put some, if they want to follow you on Instagram or they want to go to your site and get B1?
Yep, that's my Instagram, and we put some links in my bio and everything on that. If you guys have any questions, you can send me questions anytime you want on DMs. I answer all my own questions and all that kind of stuff. But anybody working with you guys, I'm happy to help out in any way that I can, Don. So
Awesome. Well, Jimmy, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing. Keep up the good work. And you guys take a page from Jimmy's book. I don't necessarily want you running with the bulls, okay? But go charge. Make it happen. Have a great day.
appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks for being here, Jimmy. Appreciate it, man.
You bet, guys. Take care.
You guys have a great day.